Hey, what's up, people? Piz out here. And a couple of weeks ago, I was asked to do a vlog on my thoughts pertaining to the legalization of marijuana. And I'm going to go ahead and do that now. But I need to make this point right off the bat. I'm not a marijuana user. I've never been a big marijuana user. I'm not a current marijuana user. You know, any drug that causes me to become paranoid, sweat profusely, and then eat like 5 peanut butter sandwiches isn't my thing. The peanut butter sandwiches, yay. The rest of it, not so much. So, you know, I can't speak, you know, to a lot of personal, you know, drug testimonials as far as you know, drug use and stuff is concerned, because I've just not experimented with really very many drugs, really any drugs, to be perfectly honest with you. So, I mean, aside from you know, a beer here and there, or you know, a pain pill when I had my you know, wisdom teeth removed. I mean, that's sort of the extent of my drug history, to be perfectly honest with you. But yeah, the legalization of marijuana is something that I kind of go back and forth on. I weigh the pros and I weigh the cons. And to be perfectly honest with you, in my opinion, the pros outweigh the cons. But I think before we talk about, you know, marijuana is a drug. You know, the people who try to shoot down the legalization of marijuana, they always, you know, it's a drug. It's a horrible drug. It's a drug. It's a drug. It's a drug. Well, I mean, let's talk about legal drugs. Let's talk about alcohol. Let's talk about how many alcohol-related deaths there are every year. Let's talk about nicotine. Let's talk about cigarettes. How many people die from smoking cigarettes every year? Alcohol and nicotine are definitely drugs. Let's talk about caffeine. Caffeine is a drug. Caffeine is an addictive drug. There's no doubt about it. Let's talk about sugar. Sugar is an incredibly addictive drug. Let's talk about additives and preservatives, you know, chemical compounds that are in food that we eat. I mean, if you go to Walmart, if you go to McDonald's and you buy a Big Mac, there are chemical agents in that Big Mac, and this is proven. This is proven, documented, factual evidence. There is chemical compounds in that burger that when you bite into it, it triggers the part of your brain that the pleasure receptors in your brain. It makes you feel euphoric. It makes you feel like this. As soon as you bite into it, you know, the taste buds, you know, shoot that information to the pleasure receptors in your brain, and you feel great. That's the greatest burger ever. And, you know, it really hits the spot, and it was great. And you feel full, and so on and so forth. And then like 2 hours later, you crash, and you're starving again, and you want another Big Mac. That is an addictive, that is an addictive quality in that Big Mac. Stuff in soda, aspartame, that is in every diet soda across the board, is an incredibly addictive compound. And people know this. The companies know this. That's why they put it in there, because they want to get you addicted to Diet Pepsi, so that's the only thing that you ever want to drink is Diet Pepsi. That's fact. That is verified, factual evidence. Those are drugs. Those are legal drugs. Now, of course, alcohol and nicotine and cigarettes, they're controlled to a certain extent. You know, you have to be a certain age to buy them. There's even some towns in the country where, you know, alcohol use, or alcohol sale, I should say, is prohibited. But it's still in use. I mean, you hear all the time people dying from alcohol abuse, people dying from alcohol-related vehicular fatalities. You never hear anybody, you know, overdosing on marijuana. You never hear anybody going out on, you know, fueled on marijuana and, you know, robbing a store or picking fights with people. You know, you hear that a lot with alcohol. People get drunk and they want to fight, and there's problems. You never hear that with marijuana. And a lot of the people that I know who use marijuana are really very, very docile, very, very non-violent. So, you know, there's a lot affiliated with marijuana, of course, is hemp. And again, factual evidence, hemp is far superior to, you know, typical rope or whatever people use these days. Hemp is just so much better. But because it is a cousin to marijuana, it's outlawed. Several states have lowered the criminal charges for possession of marijuana. If you get caught with marijuana, a little bit of marijuana for personal use, you're basically ticketed. Like if you were driving without a seatbelt, or if you were going 70 in a 55 or something like that, you're ticketed. A couple of states have actually legalized the use of marijuana. 3 states actually voted on it. 2 states voted yes for the legalization of marijuana. Of course, medicinal marijuana has been in use for quite a while. Apparently in California, if you walk into your doctor's office and tell them you've got a headache, here's your prescription for marijuana. I twisted my ankle, marijuana. My sinuses are marijuana, you know. My tummy hurts, marijuana. You know, it's that easy to walk out of your doctor's office with a prescription for marijuana in California, that the fact that, you know, they even put that much of a block on it where you have to have a prescription is really a joke, to be honest. Excuse me. That leads me to those awesome, do you remember those awesome ads about marijuana, where it's like, just say you're allergic, man. I'm allergic to marijuana. My sneezing there reminds me of those. You know, think about the amount of money that is used to prosecute and to jail people on minor drug charges like marijuana possession or, you know, marijuana sale. I read somewhere, and I forget the exact numbers, but I mean, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions, spent yearly on marijuana offenders. Just marijuana offenders. Not talking about other drug offenders, but marijuana specific offenders. That's a lot of money that if marijuana was legal, or at least if its use nationwide was treated more like I said, a ticketed offense, it's a lot of money saved by the government, saved by individual states and the government as a whole. If marijuana were legal, you know, imagine the economic boost from marijuana farming, the jobs that would create. Imagine the economic boost that taxing marijuana, if it's sold in, you know, wherever it's sold, but what kind of economic boost that would cause. Now, if it were legal, I mean, definitely there should be certain restrictions. There should be an age restriction. And there should certainly be, I mean, I don't think you should just be able to walk into a convenience store and buy a pack of joints like a pack of Marlboros. There should probably be some sort of licensure where you should have to take some sort of, you know, I don't know, drug abuse course or something to that effect, you know, and be a licensed marijuana user. You should probably be able to have to go to maybe even, I don't know, maybe even a pharmacy, or maybe, you know, some specific shop. I think it should be something that should be done only indoors in your own home. You shouldn't be able to go to a bar and, you know, get a beer and smoke a joint. That should be something that takes place in your home. And it should be priced, you know, I think it should be relatively expensive, to be perfectly honest with you. But for me, you know, and of course, you know, everybody says, you know, marijuana is a gateway drug. It's a gateway drug. You know, it leads to bigger. It leads to bigger things. And, you know, from my experience with some friends of mine who in high school did use marijuana, yes, it did lead to bigger things. Did it lead to bigger things with every person that I knew of that used marijuana? No. The other, you know, qualm about marijuana is it robs you of your motivation. All you want to do is get high and sit around all day, and that's really it. You know, that's not particularly true in the instances that I'm aware of. The people that I know who smoke marijuana, I'm talking about, you know, a college professor probably isn't the best, isn't probably the best example as someone who's super super motivated. But you know, a college professor of mine was a big marijuana smoker. There's, you know, a friend of mine who's now he works. To protect him, I'll say he has a pretty, I don't know how to put this. Yeah, he has a pretty good job. Marijuana user, pretty frequent marijuana user, but, you know, doesn't, you know, still goes to work every day, still does good work, and yeah, so on and so forth. So I mean, you know, that's another sort of, you know, it's very, I think it's, you know, every drug affects the human body in a different way, and marijuana is really no difference. But I think the thing that I really wanted to talk about with this video, not just talking about, you know, should marijuana be legal, you know, but the fact that, you know, marijuana is a drug, but let's look at all the other drugs that are out there that are legal and that are far more hazardous than marijuana. I mean, what are the side effects of marijuana? Yeah, I'm sure, you know, it affects the lungs, you know, the smoke affects the lungs, so on and so forth. Aside from that, I really don't know what are the other side effects. What are the side effects of you know, excessive alcohol use, of excessive smoking and nicotine use, of excessive, you know, sugar, weight gain, you know, like I said, the aspartame in the diet sodas, all the chemicals in fast food and in just soda in general, in you know, highly you know, concentrated, and you know, for me, I watch a lot of documentaries, and I know this is getting off someplace else. I watch a lot of documentaries on Netflix, particularly about food, because I think they're very interesting. So much of the food that we eat, including the fruits and vegetables, are chemically altered and engineered to the point where there is no nutritional value. They're not even really, that tomato isn't even really a tomato. It is a chemical compound that more or less looks like a tomato. They take a tomato seed, they shoot it full of drugs and chemicals, and it explodes and becomes this big thing that looks like a tomato and tastes like a tomato, but it has none of the nutritional value of a tomato. It is a chemical just like a street drug, and it has addictive qualities just like a street drug, and it has dangerous qualities just like a street drug. That is in everything. As I said, you go to McDonald's, you eat that Big Mac, there are chemicals, addictive chemicals in that Big Mac. And McDonald's serves billions daily. Billions daily. I know that's a whole other train of thought, but I mean, when you really think about, you know, oh, marijuana is a horrible drug, it's a drug, it's a drug, it's a drug. Look at all the other drugs. Look at all the other drugs that are completely legal, and we consume them each and every day, and that's why we're so unhealthy. That's why we're so unhealthy. So, you know, I mean, on the pro side of marijuana, you know, it's gonna stimulate the economy. It's going to save taxpayers lots of money. And, you know, I would really like to get some feedback on this video. I want you guys to talk about, you know, what your thoughts are. If you have any personal experiences, I'm sure there's quite a few of you out there that in my audience who are marijuana users. So, I mean, you know, really this video is for you. Tell me what you think. You know, I'm talking about it from an outside standpoint, not being a big user, but really, you know, looking at it from the outside and comparing and contrasting. And I think really in this video, I want to talk about pros and cons. I can't really, you know, there's not that many cons I can really think of, to be perfectly honest with you. Now, do I want marijuana legalized tomorrow? No. You know, there needs to be a lot of, like I said, there needs to be a lot of, you know, barriers put in place as far as who can buy it, where they can buy it, and, you know, like I said, you know, some sort of, you know, I don't know, permit or license or something saying that they can, you know, buy the drug. They can't just sort of walk into, you know, 7-Eleven and get a Slurpee and a pack of, you know, marijuana joints and, or Marlboro joints, marijuana joints, you know, Marlboro joints, and, you know, walk out and off into the sunset. So I'm really interested to see what you guys think about this issue and where you stand. And, you know, if you know more about it than I do, which I'm sure some of you do, please, you know, elaborate below. You know, what are the real cons of marijuana use? What have you personally experienced and seen as far as the cons of marijuana use? The, you know, the bad things that come from using marijuana. You know, is it truly a gateway drug, or is it just, you know, reefer madness, really? So anyway, yeah, interested to see what you guys think, what your take on the whole subject of marijuana legalization is. I do foresee in the next, if not decade, I'd say probably the next decade, we're going to see a lot more states adopt this sort of, you know, either legalized marijuana state or a state that, you know, it's just the criminalization of it is lowered to the point of, you know, a ticket as opposed to jail time and stuff like that. So yeah, anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and until next time, peace.